the pleasure of introducing Teresa Lawrence for this session today titled Cognitive Diversity, the diversity your team isn't thinking about and should. So please join me in welcoming Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so thrilled that you're here. Is anybody doing any work with cognitive diversity, throwing those terms around? Yeah, good. I'm glad to see that it's growing. It'll be an hour. It'll be a very fast hour. Good, fun hour. Again, there will be 4 stations. If you wanted to do this 8-minute activity in a group, constructing it, that's great. If you were just going to turn left and right and have a small group right there, that's okay too. So just a couple of objectives that I have for you today is gaining insights on the understanding and leveraging this thing called cognitive diversity, right? When should you have a homogeneous team? When should you have a heterogeneous team? What kind of problems are you working with? Understand when and with intention. You're going to explore and bolster your team's synergy, right? We want to wrestle with the problem and not each other. And I want you to consider how you might, as a team or as an individual, solve problems better. Agenda in the next hour, wee bit about cognitive diversity just to tee it up. A little bit about creativity and foresight, the leading assessment that reveals your thinking preferences toward problem solving. The number one desired skill. You're going to have this team challenge, no trust falls, you don't have to share any kind of personal information. Then my friends are going to help us out. I have sample individual and team profiles. It's okay if you don't get one. If you need one later, just email me and I'll get one out. But then you can have a look at it. Some thinking tools about creative problem solving and how that matches your foresight preference, and then a little bit of debrief. There'll be a handful of turn left, turn right with your partner. One thing, it will get loud when we do. Chime just means we'll come back together. So my name is Teresa Lawrence, and the work that I do is on the intersection of creativity and project management. We believe that I'm the only person that is credentialed in both creativity, the International Center for Studies in Creativity, second generation to Sidney Parnes, the creator of creative problem solving, and I'm a certified project management professional. Came up the ranks, was a public school employee, ended my career as a superintendent of schools, and my husband says, how much longer do you want to do that? And I said, well, not much longer. What I really want to do is what I really want to do, and that's my work in creativity and project management. Creativity is defined as things that's novel and useful. They're new, and they serve a purpose. Project management is a temporary endeavor to create a unique deliverable. And the work that I do is absolutely on that intersection. So that we shift from to-do lists into project management mindset. And of course, all of our work, unless it's an operation, is a project, which inherently have problems. And so we can engage our work differently, better, in a more interactive and inclusive way. So just looking at this picture, turn to the person left and right, like, what's your reaction? What do you would want to do? What do you think? Perfect. So I want you to keep this in mind. I'm going to ask you 4 questions. It's okay if you answer or put your hand up 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Doesn't matter. Keep this picture in mind. When you're faced with a problem, right? You could probably recognize this as a problem. Do you find that you first want to understand what's going on? Like, what's the context? Did anybody want to kind of go, what? Sometimes when we solve problems, we want to get some ideas about it. Like, oh, they should maybe make a little picnic. Did anybody think, yeah, I just want to get some ideas about that? Yeah. Other people's, we like to assess and figure out the next move. Yeah. And does anybody like just to do something? Like, oh, look at my HR friends in the room. Did anybody have more than 1 hand up? Yeah. That's cognitive diversity. Right? Your thinking preference. You want to clarify. You want to ideate. You want to develop. You want to implement. By the way, those are the stages of the creative problem-solving process. And here's the thing. It's just preference. So if everybody just wiggles their hands like this, wiggle, 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 and cross them over. 1 thumb up on top. Look at what thumb it is. Mine happens to be my right thumb. Take them apart. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Put your other thumb on top. Ooh. Ooh. I've been in front of 90,000 people. That gets people every time. Here's the thing. Could you do it the second time? You could. You didn't prefer to. And that's the thing about your preference toward problem solving. Of course you can solve problems, right? But you have a preference toward the stage, or two, or three, or all of them. And the thing about cognitive diversity is that it's about preference. It's not about ability. I'm not an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. So here's the thing that we know about cognitive diversity. It's unseen. It's not as visible as like some other at face value judgments I can make. But here's the kicker. We feel it and we experience it. Raise your hand if you've ever been in a meeting and there's somebody that asks for you one too many questions. We don't see this diversity, but we feel it. And what we want is to stay focused as teams with wrestling with the problem and not wrestling with each other. Cognitive diversity addresses the way individuals think and engage with new, complex, unknown situations. If you would have run out of the store and you worked at that store and they said, do something about this, none of us would have gone about it the same way. It recognizes that we have different thinking preferences as individuals towards problem solving. And here's the thing, if we know who has what type of preference on our team, let's be intentional. If this was our office space and we said, hey, 6,000 more people have to get into this room, we would all have a different reaction. You know what I would do? I would find those folks who have a preference toward ideating to give me some ideas what to do. Because the people who like to clarify, why are these people coming? Should I have known that these people were coming? Was there a folder on this about the people coming? Right? And I'm certainly not going to bring in somebody who has a preference to develop it because we haven't done anything really yet. Implementers, I might let them at it because they're just going to come up with something and we'll kind of figure out if it works later. The point is about that, if it's a specific, straightforward problem like the one I just shared with you, be intentional. Be intentional. Here's the thing. The people that have all of the questions, they're not going to be offended if you say we're just generating some ideas around this. They're going to go, okay. And you know what? Not everybody has to be at the meeting. So be intentional about what you're doing versus this strange, ambiguous, challenge, uncertain situation. Imagine coming out of COVID, right? Or kind of preparing into that. You don't want kind of one preference type of individual thinking on there. You wouldn't want a homogeneous team. You would intentionally want a heterogeneous team so that you don't miss anything. Cognitive diversity are thinking preferences toward problem solving, and you'll experience that in just a second. So in the work of creativity, I mean, nobody really knows which comes first, the chicken or the egg. But in this work of creativity and innovation, we know for certain that creativity precedes innovation. It's the arrival at novelty and useful. Innovation, on the other hand, is the implementation of that. So foresight reveals your thinking preference toward problem solving. That kind of abuts these two. The stages of the creative problem solving process, first one is exploring the vision and identifying the challenge. Wouldn't it be great if all of my employees showed up on time? Visioning. Identifying the gaps, what's inhibiting us from getting there. Ideating, you're going to have a challenge, you'll generate ideas for it. You have an idea and you want to make it a little bit better, right? Kind of tweak it and move it forward. And then you need to make a kind of a plan to put it in place. Universal problem-solving process. Doesn't matter from whence you come, shape, size, language. Even if you're not trained in problem solving, you go through these stages. The thing about foresight is that those stages utilize specific cognitive thinking skills. Some of us like to do these ones. Some of us like to do those ones. There are a total of 15 profiles in foresight, research-based foresight assessment. So when you're clarifying, I'm going to say this, and I just want you to think if this sounds like you, or think if it sounds like somebody that you know. Do they like to? right? What's going on? What are we doing? What have we done in the past? Is there a manual on this? Did we collect any data from last year? Right? Clarifying. When you ideate, you play with lots of ideas. Hey, I know what we could do. Let's do this. Let's do that. We kind of jump around a little bit, and we might want to make things a little bit better. Some of us like to do that. Some of us don't. When you develop, you're kind of refining and polishing and making better. Like tinker until it's really good. And then lastly, when you implement, you get into action. You make stuff happen. So why is this important? We know from research that that creative thinking, it's again universal. It's not a language-based thing. Think about your colleagues, right? It doesn't matter kind of really who is asking the question. You just know this person asks a whole lot of questions. We have these thinking preferences. We gain and lose energy. If I'm in a meeting and it's a big project and I'm working with teams and they're clarifying and kind of really revamping all of what it's going to be, yeah, I don't really like that part. I don't have energy for that. I can do it, preference, but I don't like to, really. We know that solving problems has 4 types of thinking that's involved in it. Raise your hand if you or your child skipped 2nd grade. It doesn't really happen. And the thing about problem solving, why would you skip a stage there? Every stage of the problem-solving process matters. And it affects collaboration. What we learn, unlike kind of personality or disposition assessments, it's not now that I don't get along with you, isn't that insightful? It's more so as we approach problem solving, you just go at it very differently. And that's of benefit to me because there's a good chance I don't. We gain self-mastery, this notion of emotional intelligence. I know that I'm a very high implementer. I buy things and don't measure, and they don't fit, and I have to return them. We can grow empathy and respect for other people. My mom's a very high clarifier. She asks 1,500,000 questions. I know that not about her. All I'm going to do is say, Ma, you get 10 questions, not 56. We can leverage this cognitive diversity, right? We can begin to be trained in problem solving and ask ourselves as a team really quick, what are we facing? What are we doing in this meeting? And who needs to be here? We can build better teams, and ultimately we can improve performance. So how to thrive this diversity? So process awareness. I do a lot of training in creative problem solving and in foresight, but the notion is just to learn the creative problem solving process. How many of you on job descriptions say, we'd like you to think critically? We want a good problem solver, right? So here's the thing, where do you learn it? You learn the process. You learn the process. And you also then recognize how you and your team performs, and foresight simply gives you that insight. What is your preference? What's your team preference? And those will be the handouts that you'll see in just a little bit. So in a moment, remember there are these 4 stations. There are these 4 stations. If you want to be tactilely involved, you absolutely may. And if you want to watch, that's okay too, right? I'm going to have to ask you to self-regulate. If you're not going to go to one of the 4 stations, just, you'll see, it'll be fine. Turn and talk to the people that are around you. A challenge is often, who might finish that sentence? The challenge is often complex. What else? Exciting. An opportunity. Difficult. Pardon? New. Absolutely. Do you find this is also sometimes true? Right? Poorly or ill-defined. It's ambiguous. What are we doing? Sometimes it comes with too much or too little information. And ultimately, it can be solved in more than one way. Here's the thing, when you have a problem-solving process and you know the mechanism for it, you have a process, and it's not personal. And now loudmouth Louie, who gave up an idea, is allowed to be part of that vetting process. And if that idea is kind of chosen through a process, everybody else goes, sure. But if loudmouth Louie idea doesn't kind of come forward, he doesn't even pick it, we just kind of move on. So we make a process. So if you are going to go to a station, Everything you need is in the box. If you're going to go to a station, everything you need is box. You will have 8 minutes. Virtual challenge, we do this in person, and I do it kind of online. This is yours. So a couple of you just want to take a little screenshot of that so that when your turn on talking to the right and the left, you know what you'll do, and I can come back there. Invent a product that meets an unmet customer need, make a prototype or an illustration, or at least just describe it to us, name your product, and then you would ultimately create a presentation. We're not all going to do presentations. We're probably going to hear two. So your job there is identify a need, generate a product or a service, sketch it, talk about it, basically meet an unmet customer need, and be able to tell us what it is that you've done to mitigate it. So, on your marks, get set. If you're going to a station, go to a station. If you're going to a station, you're going to a station. If not, then this is your task with the people around you. You have 8 minutes. I will put my timer on. There are 2 stations in the back. There are 2 stations in the front. 2 stations in the back, 2 stations in the front. Otherwise, you can sit and relax for the 8 minutes or do this. Everything you need is in your box. If you're working with the box, everything you need is in it. No, yeah. Everything you need is in your box. So these are not your instructions. Everything you need is in your box. And everything you need is in your box. Okay? Good job. And everything you need is in your box, yeah? Good, okay. Somebody should stay up there so they can tell us about it. All right, friends, I'm just mindful of time. If we could come back together. Just mindful of time. If we can come back together. So let's see if we can hear, do any of the groups that assembled anything? Do they want to show and tell? Do any of the groups? Okay, we have a group in the back. So let's hear what you have. What have you got in the friends in the back?
Called the Flying Gift Shop. So in the expo, the balloon will float and there's a gift card in there. You get to try and shoot it down.
Did you make a prototype? Did you use all 12 pieces? And do you have a name?
The Flying Gift Shop.
The Fly String. Good, thank you. Thank you, good job. What about did anybody in the virtual group, did anybody come up with anything as a small group that was sat working with partners? Yep. Are you voluntolding her? Okay. What have we got? What did you like? What was your consumer need and what did you do?
Our need was the need to have coffee and not wait in line.
Yes.
Our product was coffee strips similar to those screens called Go Time. Joe Time for your coffee.
Joe Time. Did you say Joe Time, like a cup of Joe?
For your coffee.
Yeah.
And slow time for your tea.
Oh, look at that. Outstanding, thank you. What about one more of our, yes, please. Fast clapping, fast clapping. What have we got?
So this is for the small construction project at home. We have a device that will inject this balloon with some helium. You put your product in it, and it will carry it up to however high you need. And there's even a ladder inside. So everything is in this box. Use it to transport up high in a small construction project.
Perfect, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. And one more virtual group, maybe. Was there another group that met a need? Yep, please, right here, friends.
We talked about like aloe aqua, and it's just something that you can hydrate from within.
Oh.
So I think it's really neat to use water. I don't know why I'm standing. To use water and aloe together, and it's for everybody. And it could be a sponsorship for the Olympics for 2024. So anybody can use it, and it can be delivered, and it's just aloe and water. Easy stuff.
Easy stuff, thank you. Did you have a name by chance?
It's aloe aqua.
Aloe Aqua. Very good. So in the spirit of time, when we're doing this virtually or in person, one of the things that we ask, and how about this? When we do training in Foresight, you take this assessment, you're going to see some sample assessments now. You take that in advance, and I put you in groups of like preference. And it feels like a terrific first date. You're with people who solve problems like you, right? And so what we end up doing is we have a little debrief about this. What went well? People who are prone and preference toward implementing, they're going to say things like, we jumped right in, our presentation was great, totally ran out of time, right? Raise your hand if you were affiliated with the box and you couldn't find the instructions right away. Yeah, did that make anybody cringe that when they couldn't find it right away? Yeah, clarifiers, panic-stricken. They can't move forward without instructions. And so we do that intentionally so that this thing of diversity gets revealed, right? And without other, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So we laugh a little bit out of ourselves, terrific, great. And we learn about our thinking preferences, terrific. And we learn about the thinking preferences of the people on our team. So Foresight, I think my friends have given out, did you hand out some sheets? Yeah, okay. So let me just talk a little bit about Foresight. Foresight, again, research-based, and it's been vetted against many other assessments. I work at University of the Virgin Islands. I mean, people are trained on it all over the world. I do work with companies all over the world. Different from, not better than. Preference is not equal ability, we saw that. And there's no good or bad score. So if you have one of these sheets, just find the individual profile. And if you're holding one, just see if you can hold it up to others. We can share it. So here's what this graph means. Everybody has a neutral zone. And that's neutral. That's just neutral. Like if you're in there, you know, if you landed in there in a stage, again, you're like, yeah, cool, I can do that, that's fine. If you have a high preference, that's where you get excited. You're up and going. So this person is called a driver, and that means simply that they have a neutral preference toward clarifying, probably really wouldn't read the directions too much. Shutting down. People in the back, tech, shut down. We have ourselves a problem. So clarifiers would want to know what's going on. I've been trained so much in the creative problem-solving problem. I do want to know, but that is not my problem right now. Right? So on the spot, I'm going to ideate. We're going to keep moving forward. So if you're looking at one of those graphs, and maybe, may I see, just turn yours around. I'm curious about it. No, does anybody have one that's at an extreme? Yes, please, would you mind? Yep, and that would, whoever's closest. Tackle, get her. So this just simply means clarifying, ideating, developing, and implementing. You can see there's a graph, and that simply means that this person kind of is neutral and clarifying. How about this? Don't ask them for any ideas. They don't like to, and they're going to struggle with it. But, give them something that's been ideated on to make it better and draw it home. They're like, cool, I'll do that part. That's what I mean about making teams with intentionality. Not everybody has to be at the meeting. This person who doesn't like to ideate, they don't care what your idea is. They'll like that there was a process, because then they trust it a little bit better. But they didn't need to be at that meeting. They could be, but they weren't at that meeting. So here's what we have. Let me talk a little bit about these graphs. So if you have these graphs, you can kind of follow along. Remember, there's 15 different kind of profiles, and we all operate differently. So two people that are clarifiers, they might not have the same score. Lawrence, Lawrence. And there's also no good or bad score. It just is. It just is. So as he's working through that, people that like, because as soon as I know. Huh, okay, let's give this guy a round of applause, right?
Power, controlling it.
He's sweating in places that
Didn't even know they existed.
So, again, here's what happens. This happens to be a finisher, somebody who prefers really to develop and then draw it home. So when we do that activity and everybody gets their foresight profile, they read it and they go, oh my God, have you been living with me for all my life? This is exactly me. This is exactly me. And it gives them that insight. So, yay! I don't even know. Okay. It's okay. It's life. Again, so just your preference. I'll give you an example about that. So look at all of these different profiles that you could have. Imagine that's your team. Right? No wonder you don't get anything done. Right? I mean, because we really sometimes haven't understood what the problem is, and then we're not kind of allowed to do where we have energy. I'm stuck doing things that, it's not that I'm not capable. I don't really have energy for that. So just general reaction. Just turn to somebody right now. What do you think about this thing about finding out somebody's profile? If you are sitting next to a couple of people, just show them, if you would, your chart so they can see one in person. Any just general reaction with your friends next to you? have any like aha moments like, wow, this could help kind of organize and work our team just a little bit better, self and others. So clarifiers, I want you to imagine, again, thinking about yourself. Remember I had you do the questions in the beginning? So when you're on your team, clarifiers, they clarify the problem, right? They're not really quick to move to solutions. They need, what are we doing, people? Right? And they also stand back and they look and they go, look at these loony bins running right into the work. They'll be back in just a little bit to figure out what we're doing. Very focused, orderly when they're problem solving. They need those orders, they need the facts. Here's the thing, like the policy manual, yeah, look at that. Right? If you're going to talk about the policy manual, just get it out in advance. I guarantee you, I'm not reading it. She is. If I was in a room with others and there was a bunch of clarifiers, I might be thinking, my God, these people with the questions and pointing out what we're not doing and what's not going on. And at extreme, they might get stuck in paralysis analysis. I did work with Roswell Park Cancer Institute, project managers, right? One of the 15 kind of best, biggest hospitals, project management team. They were a bunch of clarifiers. And they said, what do you think? I said, I wonder when you get anything done. To thrive with clarifiers, they need clear, sequential, linear explanations of the facts. They need access to more information. They want outlines, grids. Right? Let me see. Let me do some work. Yeah. Does that sound like anybody in the room? Oh, so you see yourself. Yeah. And everybody else who's not a clarifier, if they work with you, they're like, yeah, that annoying part. If you like and you prefer to ideate, big picture. Where clarifiers are in the weeds, ideators are like, what are we doing? Give me the big picture. They need room to be playful, imaginative, social, adaptive. They need that room. They can be kind of in problem solving, flashing these ideas. They can get annoyed when people don't overlook them. And they might overlook details. They can be project jumpers. Reason being is that because if they don't have an idea in this pocket, they have an idea in this pocket, and away they'll go. Big picture, an idea, compelling stories, right? Don't give them those details. If they're not going to read it, doesn't mean that they're not responsible for it. It's just problem solving, they probably are not. Developers, pluses and minuses, pluses and minuses. They look at solutions. And these are your friends that go, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Let me just think for a second, right? Or they say, can we table that and talk about it at the next meeting? These are also your friends that if they do a PowerPoint presentation and the font is wrong on one slide, yeah, they go back and redo the whole presentation. Reflective, careful, pragmatic. You need to give them the chance to consider things. Don't push for a decision. You need to give them that chance. They can be nitpicky, not because they're finding fault. They can just see what perfect looks like. They may get stuck on that one approach. Give them a structured argument. Be pragmatic. They need to tinker. They'll break something so that they can fix something because they can, in fact, see that it should be done better. And my guess is, as you heard a couple of these presentations, some of you were like, oh, you know what they could have done? Then there are the implementers. We give structure to ideas, the SNIKE approach. Just do it. Just do it. Do something. We're determined. We can be a bit pestery, action-oriented. We like to get things done. We jump way too soon. We need a sense that others are moving. Here's how much I've learned about this, as simple as it sounds. Thinking, reading, reflecting, Teresa, those are verbs. Your colleagues are doing something. They're doing different thinking around this problem. If you're in a room with them, you might see them kind of be a bit pushy, readily expressing their fears, and again, they may leap to action way too quickly. Brief and clear. Just give me a high level, tell me what we need, tell me what the action steps are, tell me you're going to be able to do something in a little bit. Some people have equal preferences, and they are in fact kind of terrific problem solvers because it's not that they're neutral, they simply have equal preference. Oh, we need to clarify? Sure. Need some ideas? Okay. Need to develop? Yeah. And can they have the sixth sense? The challenge is that they can often lose their voice kind of as peacekeepers. They need to believe that everybody is on the team, is doing it, understanding what is going on. Steady, flexible. So imagine this meeting. You now know a little bit about clarifying, ideating, developing. Imagine that meeting. How about this? Here are your two-way styles. So you might have a preference toward clarifying and developing. Look at that theorist. You like to have ideas, and then you kind of put them to use, but implementing them, they're probably not meeting their deadlines. 3- and 4-way styles, and in fact, there are 15 different foresight profiles. Real-life application. This is my son, William. William comes home from university at COVID, and William is a driver. William gets an idea, then he does stuff. Driver. Ideate, implement. During COVID, what we had in our backyard one day. And I said, and this is pretty much verbatim, I go, William, what'd you do? Ma, I had this great idea. You know, these axe throwing and knife throwing, it's like really popular right now. Like, I could totally make one of those. I said, so what did you do? He goes, totally hopped in the car and went to Home Depot and made it. So this was in our backyard. And then Gary showed up. And I said, William, what's going on? Again, Ma. He goes, clearly I didn't think that through. Clearly I didn't think that through. He says, look, the wood slats are going the wrong way. It needs to go this way so the axes sit in there. And it had to be longer because the axes are too heavy and they just kept on falling into the ground. So I said, William, I want you to think about this as team, as a project, right? Had you had a clarifier on your team, they would have gone, you're doing what? And he still would have said, totally going to make an axe throwing thing. And they would have said, what are you going to use? And the developer would say, you should probably put the wood the other way. Right? So, time, energy, resources. I don't know that we have a whole bunch of extra for the redo. So, here's an individual. This person would like to clarify. They like to ideate, develop, and implement. It's not their preference. So here's our little sample team, and they have all of their little energy worms. And here could be a team profile. You have 2 sheets, so if you did get a handout, the second one is just a random team profile. So this says to me that this team spends a whole lot of time talking, right? They really know what's going on. And then what are we going to do about it? I don't know. But, somebody will probably say something, senior level person, loudest person, and they'll go, fine, fine, fine. All right, let's tinker with it. But they certainly will get stuff done. Imagine this team. And imagine if you are the person that does have a preference toward ideating and developing. How are you feeling in that meeting? Right, where is your voice being heard? And how about this? When are they getting something done? Another example? Ooh, we're just coming up with good ideas. Right? Most likely to the wrong problem. Most likely to the wrong problem. But, like William, you're going to make those ideas happen. Nothing's really getting developed. Somebody says, let's do this, and you go, okay. No, I'm thinking about, is it appropriate? When I work with organizations, I come up with at least, oftentimes, 75 ideas in 5 minutes. We want some ideas. This one's going to freak you out. Ready? It's totally going to freak you out. Right? Like, you don't really want that to be your surgical team. Right? It matters who's on your team. It matters who's on your team. So if you have a team profile, if you just kind of wave that around so people can see you, and if you would, just a brief moment, kind of share it with one another, maybe in juxtaposition to that individual profile, because how would you feel then being on that team? So just separate those, just give those a quick glance. So people often ask me, it's sure all research-based, but like, can I change my preference? And the thing is that we gain insight and understanding about kind of really how we solve problems. What you get is that insight, and what you can do is learn the problem-solving process. So you kind of know your Achilles heel, right? But when I'm also then working with others, like, they already knew that I run through walls. They were just kind, they didn't say it to me. Right? So we want to stay focused on wrestling with the problem and not each other. That clarifier needs access to facts, info, and proof. The ideator wants to give the ideas and see the big picture. The developer requires time to evaluate and optimize, and the implementer seeks ways to act. In order to work within that cognitive diversity, kind of give them what they need in order to thrive. Order, facts, understanding of history, context, and you can give them that before the meeting. They'll really like that. Ideators give them that big picture. Developers give those times to think, to evaluate, to consider. And implementers give them that sense of we are moving forward and we're working forward. So working with teams, helping teams understand, increasing their synergy. Because here's what happened. When organizations get trained, one department recognizes that they're stuck and they need some ideas. And think, all the ideators. Right? You have common language. You know now, cross-team, who you want to go get and why. And also on your team, you learn to fill the gaps. Right? What if you're one of those teams that don't like to ideate? What if I don't like to ideate? What does that mean? Like, I'm stuck now, I can't do anything? The thing is, I said, remember, nobody really skips second grade, and you wouldn't want to skip the ideating phase. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that, but we do. So the good news is that everyone can learn to be creative. Everyone can learn to innovate. I'm on a plane this afternoon to go to 2 days of training with Project Management Institute so that people can be trained in the creative problem-solving process with application. All of that starts with creativity and this notion of the dynamic balance. You have a challenge, you have an opportunity, you've got something. The crux of creative problem-solving, separating generation from evaluation. Generate all kinds of ideas, hundreds of ideas. I've been in rooms this big where they're all just littered with ideas. Then and only then, using guidelines, we make some decisions to arrive at something that's novel and useful. Here's the good news. These little ideas that didn't get chosen, it's perfect. They don't even know. And they don't have feelings. You have a process, it's not personal. So again, exploring the vision, identifying the challenge, generating ideas, transforming solutions, and bringing things in. And in every stage of the creative problem-solving process, there are tools. So what you are able to do is train teams, and then, like, you kind of are off the hook because you should have known better. You should have known better. If you're a team that doesn't prefer to develop to make things better or how to give feedback, you could say, wait. Remember that tool, pluses, potentials, concerns, overcoming concerns? Let's do that. Let's find the value of what we like, pluses, potentials. If we totally pull this off, what terrific things might come as a result? concerns, we just phrase them as how to, how might, in what ways, what might be all the ways. Get them all out there, find the biggest challenge that if we don't overcome that, we cannot move forward. And then we're back to brainstorming for ideas about how to overcome that. Don't skip second grade. So teaching, applying, practicing in organizations with teams so that this was entirely mapping out organization's year high level of to-dos. That was in the implementation stage. Use brainstorming to brainstorm and hit all the things that you need and then put them through. Training for traction. As a former superintendent of schools, it's so important for me as my work at university, but also the work that I do in the field, is that there is some traction, that you know how to do it. So it is exciting to think that if you like foresight, if you like the creative problem-solving process, just simply get trained in it. You'll solve problems better, faster. This notion of cognitive diversity, again, wrestle with the problem and not each other. So some things that we wanted to cover, gain some insight and leverage cognitive diversity. Start to begin to think about when and how with intent. And you're not saying, Teresa, I think you're a dodo brain, you're not contributing to the team. It just means where we are in the problem, this is what we're going to do. You can come if you want. It's a clarifying session, Teresa. You want to come? No. No. Right? And then I'm okay not being at that meeting. Because you might be talking about me, but you told me you were going to do the process, so I'm just assuming that you're going to clarify and that you'll tell me what you came up with at that time. So if you would, just take a second to think for yourself anything that was new, interesting, useful, or intriguing. New, interesting, useful, or intriguing. That made you kind of go, huh. And if you're a note taker or and then also some potential uses, applications, or next steps. What might you do with your new learning? What might you do with your new learning? And I'll ask for somebody in just a second if they wanted to share, and then we'll also field some questions. So a little bit about cognitive diversity, a little bit about creativity and foresight and context. You had a team challenge. You got to experience an individual and a team profile, some thinking tools shared with you, all of them that are there. And just some time for debrief. So if there are questions, we do have a microphone there. If there's anything else that you want me to kind of further explain. Contact information, LinkedIn, and certainly then my website as well. Any questions, reactions? Yes, please.
I just have one question. You said the idea doesn't have feelings, so we can push it aside. How do you deal with the person who came up with the idea who has the feelings?
So here's the question is, if ideas don't have feelings, that's cool. But Teresa, what about my idea? Because it was really good, and we're not using it. When we learn the creative problem-solving process, we will brainstorm, and your idea is going to get out there. When we diverge, we hit those things that really feel good in our stomach. And what we say is that if your idea has been dotted, it will be in play. What we will do probably is connect that to other like ideas so that we have themes. That might be one way to get to the theme, but it really isn't about that idea. Right? It's kind of like how you're thinking that way through that problem. Here's what I find a lot when I work with organizations is loudmouth Lawrence, she'll come up with all of these ideas, but then you know what? When I'm reading through everybody else's, all of a sudden she doesn't pick hers because there's a better idea. So it's process. It's a problem-solving process. Yep, 1 second.
I just had a question on the actual foresight research. Is it inclusive of like neurodiverse individuals, and is there like any overlap there?
There are tons and tons and tons of research on there, connected, vetted, yes. Question here.
Yeah, so as you described each of those four processes
Right.
in
Stages.
the steps, I like doing all of them, but I want to do them from left to right. I want to do them in order. So is that like a clarifier?
No. Well, so you know what it means. So the question is, I like all of these stages, and I like to go left to right. It might just simply mean that as an integrator, like you do see, you know in your stomach the natural flow of things. When you take your assessment, even if you're an integrator and you're in that gray zone, everything is neutral, I would still look at it because you might just be a wee bit higher in clarifying than in something else, but still largely you're neutral.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Time for one more question.
Right here and left.
So what do you do if a team is missing something, and how do you train them up?
Just simply train them up. 2 days of training tomorrow, project managers will sit through 2 days of training to learn the process so that when they realize we need ideas, we don't prefer to do it, but we need to do it, why don't we just use an ideation tool? Let's train them right up. So again, that's my contact information. If you're interested in Foresight, if you're interested in training, I'm happy to do that. Have a great rest of your conference.